Cool. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We are on our second Data Dragons hackathon for the year, and this one is focused on time series forecasting. So just a couple of house rules. Please keep your mic on mute. Obviously, the video call is recorded and is uploaded onto YouTube afterwards. And then, yeah, if you have any critiques on my work or if anybody else is sharing them, please feel free to give them, but obviously in a positive way. Cool. So let's get right into it. First of all, what is time series analysis for anyone who has not worked with it or done like some of the more math type things in school? But essentially, time series data is just a format of data where data points are sequenced with obviously different points in time. So they have a time component to the data. And I just went and found this little infographic that summarizes it rather well. Cool. So what kind of data sets did we provide? So there are multiple data sets that were within the folder that you could have worked with. The one being alcohol sales, which just had a date column as well as the sales volume. Then there was beer sales, which was a date column as well as the frequency of beer sold. Then there was miles traveled, which is the date column, as well as the distance traveled in miles. And then energy data usage, which was a rather large data set, and you had to do quite a lot of looking at. Date was the first component, of course. Then the appliance type, I think there was washing machines and fridges, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was temperature and humidity data, as well as one or two other columns, but it was quite a complicated data set. I didn't look at the energy data usage, but if you did, it would be very interesting to see what you came across. But cool. Then what type of questions can we ask? So the first one is, of course, how does the data look in a time series chart? Whenever you're looking at time series data, it's nice to just throw it into some form of the essentially a line chart just to see how it looks over time. Then, of course, understanding if there's any seasonal variation within the data set. And then can you use a forecasting method for the time series data? There are various ones, such as moving averages could be one, but there are many different ones that have a level, like varying levels of complexity. Yeah. And then finally, because I looked at alcohol sales as well as beer sales, I just wanted to know, how does the volume of sales look over the years? Like, is it getting more? Is it getting less? Yeah. Cool. So let's get to the data without any further ado. Cool. I just want to be able. Okay. Yes. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So the first things first, we need to get into. So I worked on Kaggle just because it is I really encourage everyone to get onto Kaggle and to look at what is there. They've got a huge amount of data sets, as well as I think they have free courses and things to get yourself into. But anyway, so the way it goes is that it starts off with just an essential Python 3 environment, and then you get into the actual meat of it. I just want to see, yeah, cool. So we just imported the alcohol and beer data sets, and then with it, just looked at the data. So unfortunately, the alcohol and beer data sets, they literally just have a date column and then the frequency of sales for each of them. So within the alcohol, it's a vast like hodgepodge of alcohol sales, and within beer, it's just focused on beer. And then I just renamed some of the columns because I don't even know what that means. And then I created a time series graph. In order to do that, it's a lot easier if you just configure that back to month. And this is what the alcohol sales over time looks like when you transpose it into a time series graph. Okay, and you'll get a very similar one if you look at beer. But if you'll notice that the alcohol sales index goes from like 0 to 16,000, whereas beer sales is 6,000. Is there any questions? Because, cool. So then after that, I went and did some seasonal decomposition. So how do we do that? So within a Python library called stats model, there is essentially you can use it for some trend analysis and to essentially it's called decomposing, but you're breaking down to see how much of the friction within a model is due to trends and how much of it is due to seasonal variation. And you can see this here. So this was the overall trend line that you could observe if you like reduce the noise. This is the friction due to seasonality. And then this is the residual. So after you reduce, if you take out the seasonality from the trend, you have this. And that's, yeah, cool. And then from there, we attempted to do some very basic time series forecasting. So there is, I think this was just using the scikit-learn that I imported earlier. But you have this, and then you like attempt to figure out using dot rolling as your method. How do I, and you're looking at it over a period of 12 months. What is the average mean? So what is the mean and what is the standard deviation for the sales volume of alcohol? Because that's what I was looking at. And that is how you get this figure, rolling mean, and that is how you also get the rolling standard deviation, and you get to look at it over the period of the years. So yeah. And then I wanted to see the total sales of alcohol per year because I was quite interested, especially as there are many sober curious restaurants popping up in America, and this data set is from the United States. But unfortunately it stops at 2019, so it doesn't really go with the latest news. But yeah, you see this like rise, little bit of temperance, back to a rise, and then 2019 drops off, but I figured out that was just because there was only data for the earlier parts of 2019. So that is how that looks. That was quite fast. So if you have questions, you can ask, or we can proceed on to the next person, if anybody else has prepared anything. You are also free to pop questions into the chat. Cool. While we wait for questions, I am just going to paste in the chat the poll for next meetings. Oh, yes, the solution for the code will be made available. Thank you so much for asking. Yes, I will post it as well as the link to it, so you are free to look at the code. And I'll also, I do make within the, what's called again, the folder that is available, I do post some information about the data sets. So yeah, and we can definitely, you're definitely free to use it and to peruse it. So yeah, no obligation to do the code challenges. I will paste the YouTube link in the meetup chat so you can watch it on there. Yeah. Cool. So yes, so that is how we get there. Yeah, I think what's cool about time series forecasts, especially if you work with like financial data or if you're any type of financial analyst, I'm trying to think of anything else, but I mean, I suppose it works with retail as well, because this is 2 retail data sets, is that you get to see a lot, you get to try and attempt to forecast how much of something's going to be purchased within the next year or so, and it is quite good practice with it. So yeah, and it's also just nice from a visualization perspective. These 2 data sets were quite clean. What I am going to try and do is just to show you the complexity of the energy appliance dataset. unfortunately did not get the time to get through to doing this. I really hope you can see this. Cool. So this is the appliances energy prediction dataset that was within the options to look at. So why it was a little bit more complicated is it's a multivariate dataset. So instead of just having like date and then the one other variable, which would be the sales volume, for example, of any type of like thing, but in our case it was alcohol. This had many options, and I'm going to go. Cool. So it starts off with just the appliances, and so depending on whether it's a fridge or a TV or something, it's like a 0 or something. And then it has lights as another one. And then it's got all these T's and RH and things. So T is temperature, and then RH is humidity. And then they have all these additional components. And because it's continuous data, you could have like tried to amalgamate them to get just one, but it was quite a lot of work. And then from there, they also have, what was press millimeter again? Oh, press millimeter is the pressure in millimeters, if I understand. And then wind speed was also on here, as well as the visibility in terms of in kilometers from the weather station, as well as the total dew point. And then these two at the bottom, which are just random variables. So it was a really intense data set. I was not able to do it, but if you go onto Kaggle, there were other people who spent a lot of time really exploring this. Yeah. One of the precautions of the analysis that is made is false. So I don't know if you've ever done hypothesis testing, any of you, but normally when you're trying to do any type of prediction, you have a level of, so if we go back to mine, and I really hope you can see, okay, I hope you guys are seeing the graph right now. You can see that if I go down, it's just a graph prediction. I did not spit out a table with predicted values. But if you are doing a table of predicted values, then you normally have a confidence level. So you'll say at a 5% confidence level or something like that. And that will assist you while doing it. Yeah, but I think especially if we look at like retail sales figures or something like that, they always have a confidence bound that they operate in. And that's typically, even when I've worked in financial analysis, been there. Unfortunately, it's not extremely robust. I don't know if anyone else has had opportunities working with this, but yeah. Yeah, it would probably be good to calculate burn down rates with like tickets logged and things like that, or even like with if you work in Scrum, the burn down rate there for like team velocity would be good for time series type graph. Yeah, even if you're just looking at your personal data and you want to do like the over time, looking at how much money you spend per month. I think 22/7 has something, a graph like that on your general budgetary purchases. So yeah, that's also an option. And yeah, that is the main things I'm thinking of right now. Yeah. Fortunately, this wasn't an overly complex data set. If you like look at the beer sales over time, it was much less than like the alcohol sales. And I was kind of trying to figure out why, but unfortunately they did not add in what types of alcohol this covered, or if it also included the beer data set. So it was a bit hard to do comparison, and I didn't want to like estimate or assume. So yeah, that was the only thing that I wanted to do, but was not able to do for this. Um, but yeah. So that is so far what I got through to. Um, is there other questions that I can assist with, or anyone else who managed to get through to the data? Or if you have any questions on the data? Thank you so much, Romano. I really appreciate that. If I can just please ask if you guys can go into the chat and take the survey, just so I know what kind of things you can take for the next one. I know some people are interested in different things, so it's very important just to know what we want to do next. There is a machine learning prediction option. There is a tensor processing units, natural language processing for prediction, or there's always a Q&A option with someone working in the data field. So yeah. How many years is it to study data science? Well, I suppose if you take I see there are degrees coming up now with things like that, but there are also a variety of courses and boot camps. Yeah, so it's a bit difficult to say how many years exactly. And also the industry has taken a while to figure out what exactly data scientists do versus like engineers and analysts and things. But yeah, if you're doing like self-study via Udemy or boot camps or Udacity and things like that, probably like 2 to 3 years. Just depends on how you're going. Some people go much faster, I suppose. Depends on your knowledge of statistics and analysis and things in advance. But yeah, I hope that was helpful. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you have a lovely evening if there's no further questions.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you so much. Have a great day. Night. I mean, yeah. Cool, thank you. Bye.